Okay, this is a quick little explanation of the different types of quadrilaterals, and we're going to use a Venn diagram to represent that. We've had a Venn diagram going through our notes, so as you've been taking notes, there's been a Venn diagram in all of your videos. So we're going to put them all together here, and I'll give you one final explanation of all of them together. Quadrilaterals just means that it's a figure with four sides, and that's the biggest group that we can have of four-sided figures. That's the general name. Now it's broken down into two groups, the parallelograms and the trapezoids. Okay? We're going to start with the trapezoids. Trapezoids have one set of parallel sides, only one, and that's the difference because parallelograms have two sets. So one set is a trapezoid, two sets is a parallelogram. Trapezoids, that's the only requirement, that they have one set of parallel sides. There's a group inside the trapezoids called isosceles trapezoids that have congruent legs. Okay? So that's the first group. Trapezoids have one set of parallel sides. Isosceles trapezoids have one set of parallel sides because they're a trapezoid and the legs are congruent. Parallelograms now have two sets of parallel sides, kind of given in its name, parallelogram, parallel sides, okay? So the left and right will be parallel and the top and the bottom. Now we can split that up into two smaller groups, the rectangles and the rhombi. Okay, rectangles and the rhombi. Rectangles are parallelograms with four right angles. That's the only requirement. Parallelogram with four right angles. A rhombus is a parallelogram with four congruent sides. Okay? So those are the two groups. Right angles, parallel sides, or congruent sides, sorry. And those two groups overlap a little bit with the shape that's a square. Okay, and we all know what a square is. Squares have four right angles and have congruent sides. That's why these two groups overlap. Okay, so let's run through this again. Quadrilaterals, biggest group, just means four-sided figures. Four-sided figures can be split into two groups, parallelograms and trapezoids. You can also have figures that are just four-sided figures that don't fit into either of these groups, and that's all this extra space around those two bubbles. But the two main groups that get split down even more, parallelograms and trapezoids. Trapezoids have one set of parallel sides. Parallelograms have two sets of parallel sides. There's a smaller set of trapezoids called isosceles trapezoids, and they have the legs congruent in the trapezoid. In parallelograms, there are two smaller groups, rectangles with four right angles and rhombi with four congruent sides. And those two groups overlap a little bit, and they overlap to make a square, which has both four right angles and four congruent sides. So that's the explanation of all the different types of quadrilaterals. If you have any questions, just ask me in class, and I will help you sort your questions out. You do need to know the properties of all the shapes. So if you have any questions about the properties, the characteristics, the notes you've taken, be sure to go back and watch any of the videos that you're unsure of.